Hello and welcome into the Sorare Data Show. I am Andrew Lairdinho. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare. Joined today by the only person in the history of Sorare to hear about Essence and really not make a joke for the first 20 minutes or so, Peter Stoyanov, also known as Yowzaa. Peter, thanks for coming in and for being nice and serious the first time we had to talk about Essence.
Yeah, no, it's great to be back on. Now that we've gotten a little bit more information. I mean, we still need more, but we're getting there. We can finally start thinking about how we want to do things.
Exactly. Thank you to everybody for coming in. Bob Franklin, Sorare Juju, and Tom Brimson nailed it today, finally. 3 podiums in a row for Tom. Way to be. If only Sorare were this easy, for sure. And Benna here, hoping for an Opta adjustment to make today's podium. Unfortunately, just short. S King back live for the second time from Cape Town. Way to be. Our South Africa crew checking in. Love to see it. Looking for food, Ben Cook, and then Rasko Masaki. It's time to cook. How about those back-to-backs? Charlie, what's up? Deke in the house. Let's go fire? Like Chicago fire? Or like flames? Anyway. Major NFT, Math Nerds Unite. There we go. And Sean? I don't know. Hello. Thanks for coming in. Peter, before we get into the, sorry, Deke was saying that the emoji didn't come up. not a new Chicago Fire fan. Oh, Quinny in the house. What's up? Anyway, so Peter, when Essence came out and we got through having to deal with MPen just joking about everything, what were the things that you thought we needed to analyze right away?
I think the first thing I thought about is just we didn't know how fast we would be earning Essence and how we were going to redeem it. Those seem like 2 core fundamental things. How do we get it? How do we spend it? That's kind of how life is. But we needed to know that information. The idea is fun, but if it's unobtainable or it takes too long, it's not an enjoyable process. Or if it's not easy to spend it, look at So Coins. We all feel frustrated with So Coins. So it's that balance. We didn't have that information. We're getting more of that information. So I think we can make some decisions, some judgments, but we'll need to see some more stuff too.
So yeah, we got the announcement last week. Was that last week?
I think so. Last Thursday, maybe.
Yeah. Sorry. Days are starting to it's all the same at this point.
It's the
same. So we got the kind of the update of what the Essence probabilities are for the Euros and for Copa at least. And I don't think that they necessarily said that they will be different when the new European seasons start up, but I think it's kind of the general expectation that these are kind of boosted Essence. Did you take it that way?
So my thought, at least with the current division layout, I think maybe people know my thoughts. I think the division population should look a little bit different with how they organize users. But if we stay with where it is right now, I do think that's what the boxes will look like for Div 1 players. That would be my expectations. It's a good way to motivate people to get up there. Sure, you might not be able to win prizes. It might be hard to win cards in Div 1. But if you're winning boxes that have more Essence in there, you want to be up there. And then you can make a decision on how you want to spend it. It feels like that sweet spot. So we'll see. One kind of thing that I noticed on the Sorare website, I was looking at rare boxes, and they were called premium boxes. Same name as what's in Division 1. Who knows? But that's why I kind of think that might be Div 1, and we'll see it taper down, is my expectation.
So actually on that, do you think that increased Essence odds, I guess, or payouts? I don't know what I continue to lose terminology here for Essence, but do you think that Essence will be important enough where people are like, I want to be in Division 1, not solely because of Essence, I'm not going to go that crazy, but is it oh, wow, that is more important in Division 1?
I think so. There's a few things I'm concerned maybe isn't the right word, but I brought this up on the stream in the chat with PSU fans. they do need to be careful about how much essence they're giving out. And we can get into some of the reasons why I think that might be the case. But I imagine that I think the idea is you want to earn essence because you kind of control your destiny.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be able to earn as much of that as you can, because instead of just getting that tier 3 with 450 points in classic rare, I might get 20 or 25 essence from a good day's work, maybe more. And then after 5 or 6 game weeks, I'm at milestone 3, and maybe that's where I feel comfortable taking that gamble. Maybe if I'm a Pranksy, I'm earning even faster, and every month or every, who knows how fast he could earn it, but every month he can get a star card. I think that's just what we're trying to figure out right now. We need that information. I think it's a good dial that they can use that's much better than just cutting card rewards in Div 5 or Div 4 and pushing them elsewhere. They can kind of crank that knob in higher divisions to kind of be like, you should be up here.
So you kind of, not implied there because you said it, that it's not really about like cutting card rewards, which I think is true. Like that's not the intention, but it'll kind of feel that way because ultimately this feels like a preemptive solution to more users competing for the same number of cards. And so you can distribute the cards slower, essentially. And like that's what this is, but like the number of rewards probably doesn't change much.
Yeah, I wonder where they're going to make those adjustments in the reward pools, because we know Sorare. We know a business. You don't want to cut what you can earn. So they're pulling those actual cards that are now essence, that are turning into essence. So it'll be curious to see when we get kind of the classic divisions running with those essence boxes, to see where they've cut, to be like, are they just lowering it in Div 5 and Div 4, trying to push people up, or are they just taking 15-20% off of all of the divisions and then kind of using that as their curve as well?
Makes sense. So one of the things that you tweeted, I'm just going to pull it up here, was basically what we had discussed with Mike 2 weeks ago. No, it couldn't have been last week. 3 weeks. I don't know.
Maybe.
Again.
Gosh.
All the days. But a lot of what you were doing was trying to put a value on essentially essence, and not necessarily in terms of if there was some sort of like secondary market for essence or if Sorare was going to sell essence, but more what's the most valuable way to use essence. And I'll pull this up.
I'm pretty sure Sorare hate me that I just keep trying to value everything in dollars. They're like, no, it's supposed to be fun. Stop with this.
So here we are though. So we'll keep going. So if you could just like kind of explain this, and for those of you who are just listening, Peter basically posted this very brief spreadsheet, which surely has plenty of stuff behind it. It's essentially like the average value of star through tier 5 limited cards. We focus mostly on limiteds, and then essentially like the value of each milestone and kind of where or when it might be best to use that essence to get a card. And so Peter, if you want to if you could please like kind of explain a little bit more of what we're seeing here.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll first make the statement that these are sort of raw numbers. There's a lot of assumptions that could go into this. Like a lot of people might feel that a star limited is really easy to sell. So you could maybe get 95% of that value, but a tier 5 is worth 50%, maybe on a good day, of what you get. So that's not built into any of this. And I felt like it would be unfair for me to make those judgment calls in something like this. And I'd rather just kind of post the numbers and let people work it out for themselves.
Sure.
But yeah, so, it's pretty simple. I just take a look at the prize pools, recent market data to get these average valuations. So I have it for champion, challenger, and contender. I just like looking at champion. It's a fun league. So I pulled those up, but we do see similar sort of trends with how it scales down for the other competitions. There's just, the ceiling of it is lower in Challenger and Contender.
Yeah.
The milestone odds are what they are, what Sorare posted. And it's really quite as simple as just weighting these valuations. So we take the average value of a tier 5 by the odds that you can get that, put that all into one box. And then we get these values. So we can see like the average value of a milestone 1 box, if we take the weights of everything together, is $5. And then if we look at milestone 5, it's $77, which, makes intuitive sense. You look at 101, 54, 77 is right in the middle of that. So it makes sense. That should be your approximate value. I think that's all really clear. I think where it got a little bit less clear for people is when we looked at the value by time. Time, there's 2 things to think about with time for me. I saw Vitaly post underneath, like, there's one thing about how quickly you earn, and that's an important factor we can talk about in a bit. Sort of the value by time here, what I mean is, like, let's all assume like you're earning at X rate, some rate. Let's just use that unit of time. So we're using milestone 1, which is 20 essence, as a unit of time. So it takes 2.5 times longer to get to milestone 2. So we just make that adjustment downwards. And that's how we can, and we do that for all of the milestones to sort of give that standardization and look across.
So the tricky element of all of this, I think, is something that we talked about with Mike, which was essentially, is there a time limit on your essence? And Sorare's response, which I think is one that we kind of touched on, because one of the topics we focused on was like, will essence have like an expiration date? Will you have to use it by a certain amount of time? And I think you made kind of a comment like, it's going to be really hard if everybody has to track like each individual bottle of essence that they have, and capsule, sorry. And so I think that the solution essentially that they came up with is the cleanest one, that you're just going to have this growing number, and when you hit each milestone, you'll be able to use your essence for that card. And what has kind of gone into the conversation now in a lot of different discords I'm in is essentially like, what's the best time to use your essence to craft a card? And we kind of didn't touch on that. And Toby's here in the chat. Toby DM'd me and was like, he gave me feedback on the show, and he's like, one thing you guys didn't talk about really was like when to do it. And I was like, all right, you're right. And I felt like because you had been talking about this kind of time value, it allows us to kind of jump into that conversation while recognizing that champion is very different than challenger and contender in terms of using your essence. I think everybody would probably agree that the best time to use your essence to craft a card in champion is August, because you have the most utility. That's probably when prices are the greatest. And we have this kind of tricky situation with challenger and contender because they're 12-month leagues, except you could get a card that doesn't have 12 months of utility coming into it. Where have you kind of fallen, if you have even fallen, in an opinion of like when we actually should be redeeming or pouring whatever our essence?
I think that frame of mind is right. Like, I'm going to look at when cards that I care about release new season mints. So I care a lot about the MLS. So there's going to be a point in time in January, or probably February, when new cards are released for them. I'm going to look to try to spend my essence at that point. New season cards in August are also going to be really tempting. So I almost see like there's this pocket time, right? There's a bunch of new cards in February. There's a bunch of new cards in August is kind of what I see happening. So I think there's going to be a lot of people who will kind of save and earn at that rate to make that decision. Like, I was looking at how I compete in Challenger right now. And typically I have a couple of D1 lineups and a D2 lineup. And generally I get about 3 to 4 boxes. So I'm thinking that should get me somewhere around 20 essence a week, kind of, if we're assuming that the essence stays the way it is from the Euro competition for Div 1. I think 20 essence is nice. And so it'll take me about 28 game weeks, I think, to earn 500 essence. So that would be milestone 5. That's half a year. That's a half a year of weekend game weeks. That seems to work really nicely. I think February to August is about 6 months. So every 6 months, I can take a shot at those, at getting that.
Yeah, no, some comments in the chat kind of echo that. Toby said, I really think one of the most important factors for milestone 4 and 5 is when in the calendar year you use them, since high-end in-season cards are a lot more valuable at the beginning of the season. Ben said, I'll probably end up cashing in at 100 every time I get to that level. That would give me usable or at least somewhat valuable card and not be horribly expensive. Do you think because you play so much Challenger and with MLS that you are less likely to utilize that August window than the February one?
I just think I would earn too much over the course of a year. So we can't stack up essence past 550. So
right.
I'll be forced to use it. I would only waste essence if I'm at 550 and I know MLS cards are coming into the pool in a game week or two. Mm-hmm. Then I'd be comfortable wasting a little bit. I think part of the conversation also has to do with what scarcities you're playing at. I think, if you're at lower scarcities, it might be, and you're earning a little bit more quickly, it might be worth taking shots in the dark. Because milestone 5's a really nice milestone for super rare and maybe even rare if you want to do that. But for limited, I just think to myself, I think I'd rather take a shot in the dark at 100 and I'm kind of happy with that balance of not getting tier 4s, tier 5s, while still having a nice chance at some of the other cards, and kind of getting 100 essence seems fairly easy. So that's kind of where my mind goes. And then I think there's also one other big factor. It's, do you play in-season competitions? How important is having that great card for you? I don't play in-season rare. I just didn't want to fork out the cash at the start of the season. I still look at it now and I'm just I don't really want to fork out the cash now, even though prices have somewhat come down. And so for me, in rare, I'm more willing to just save up and then get a tier 1 or a star, sell it, and then save up again, because I know I'm not going to be building out my in-season collection. Now for limited, that gallery is very different for me. If you look at my limited gallery, it is a lot of in-season MLS players that next season will be classic. And I'm going to want to take as many shots as I can to get new in-season cards to help me. So I have to purchase less limited cards next season.
So ultimately with that, you are let's focus on the rare strategy there, because I think people are more, maybe I'm stereotyping here. I think people are more willing to take chances with limited. And so I wonder how many people will actually get up to milestone 4 and redeem. I think from what I've kind of gathered from people is that they say 100 and 250 are what you really aim for. But the number of people who are going to get to 100 and just take their shot, I think we're going to see, I think that's going to be the most popular one, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so too. And I kind of ran a small little survey thing. I got, and looking at some of the responses, it definitely seemed like people are more willing to take a shot at lower scarcities. And as you get to higher ones, either it's just those valuations are so high for a super rare star that you're just I'm going to save and I'm going to save. And then I'm going to spend it all at once. which I think at the super rare level, like I'm a little worried about that for Sorare next season when all the new challenger and all of those new cards come out. I think that they're going to have a little bit of a balance issue there. I hope not, but that's what I kind of see happening. But
as someone who plays super rare, it's so hard to win a tier 1 super rare, let alone a star, that I think if it took me 2 years, I would still wait until I was at the 500 milestone.
That's fair. I mean, that's an interesting perspective. I still think I never played Rare Pro. I never wanted to touch super rares. For me, I just too scary of a market, too different of a market. Didn't want to dip into that. So I just played rare comps, and I don't think I've ever won a star rare card. And I think I've won maybe 2 tier 1 rares. Like for me, I also think rare, it's difficult to win those competitions. They're just getting more and more difficult too.
Right.
Especially now that everybody in Rare Pro has moved into rare, just the pure rare division. And so it's competitive. And I think it's competitive everywhere now. But I think the problem with super rare really lies in the fact that they don't have enough cards to award.
Mm-hmm.
They're just there's not enough. There's not enough to go around. And that's why I think, I saw your tweet the other week where it's like, why is there no star card in this pool? And it's like, I get both sides of the stone. Like as a user, we want stars to be in there. We want a chance to win the best cards. But they just don't have enough in super rare that they have to be like, this week we just can't do it. And it's finding that balance that's really difficult. Like that's why they changed the unique pools. But that's a whole different conversation.
Do you think that I'm somebody who does not play unique, and I'm asking you who doesn't play super rare or unique. Do you think that the unique milestones make sense?
I looked at that one. I thought it was even weird that super rare was as low as it was. I would have thought that super rare needs to be higher, to be honest. I think I look at this and I'm just like, everybody is saving for milestone 3 and unique. Like especially if you can redeem a tier 1 unique at the start of the season. Like who knows there's a whole different conversation on what those pools even look like, which I mean, Sean and you went into a little bit yesterday. But I just think it's going to be bad in unique. Because there's only one division in unique competitions, so everybody's in the same division. So you can't balance the unique boxes because everybody there's only one division. It's not like you can have worse boxes in a lower division. And the fact that in the Euro comps, limited, rare, super rare, and unique all have the same essence drop rates. Just that surprised me as well. There were a lot of surprising things to me in terms of a balancing perspective. And maybe I'm just looking too far out in advance. Like Sorare are lucky in terms that they don't need to worry about this European cycle. But they are going to have to worry about it next European cycle because people are just going to hoard. Like, especially towards the end of the season, there's a lot of people that don't touch the summer leagues.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we'll see there.
Yeah, I'm curious if those people who don't play it potentially start playing if they don't have a lot of essence going into the end of the European season. It's kind of like it's an incentive to gain more.
Well, I think it might depend on what they're playing. Like Sean brought up a great point about champion. If you're only playing champion and you never play the summer, don't play the summer.
Right.
Like you want to keep that. Don't play rivals. Don't play you just stay in champion because it's probably worth about 30% more. Unless you granted, if you love Sorare, play it over the summer if you want. I'm not saying don't, but if you're someone that's obsessed with ROI, which I don't think anybody should be when you're playing this, but if you are, don't touch the product over the summer. I don't think that's a good thing for Sorare, but that's for them to figure out.
Charlie said, I've got a feeling that Essence may reset at the start of every European season, barring this one, like they have promised. Did they promise that?
I don't think they can reset it like that. That would be a huge kick in the face for like me, who basically, like, I play inversely of everybody. I just play over the summer for the MLS. I might get into it a little bit more of the European season if we get the button. Different color.
I didn't see that coming. All right.
But like that would be really frustrating for me as a user if like I can only use my Essence and then August, boom, everything I work towards gets cleaned away. I think the balance of capping it is the best that they can do. And the fact that you can't redeem down. Those were two really smart decisions in terms of balancing. I just think the prize pools are based on card values, basically, primarily.
Mm-hmm.
At the start of a new season, new in-season cards are the most expensive they'll be. So we're going to see them at the top of the tiers, stars, tier ones, and maybe like overly. People will probably complain, I got this player as a tier 1, he's not a tier 1, or he shouldn't be a tier 1, etc. But it's just because that's what they're going to be valued at. So all of these MLS cards are going to go move down the pecking order for a challenger. And so if I've saved up for a star at tier 1, unless it's like Messi, it's probably going to be a bunch of PSV guys and other smashers that are in the top 2. So I basically guarantee a new season card. And so that's where I'm a little frightened for next season balance. Once people have saved up for that 500 essence, that's where the big concern is.
So one of the things that I don't know if they've clarified, and a few people have kind of reached out to me with confusing answers. I was the one who was confused, I'll say. But are you under the impression that once you reach, let's say, 250, do you have to make a decision at that point of, do I redeem or do I go to 500?
I don't think so. That's not how I read it. Of course, they've left enough gray area to do either way. I think you'll be able to redeem until you hit the next milestone. And they're all spaced out far enough that it's almost a non-issue. The only one might be milestone 4 and milestone 5. You could get to like 490 and double dip in 2 milestone 4s.
So that's kind of where I was going with that, because if you were at 400, let's say, and it's the beginning of the season, you want to redeem, you're now 150 over. You redeem your 250. Do you go to 150 after that?
It looks like Ben might have an answer in the chat.
Yeah. So, Ben, if you could provide whatever Momo said, because at some point it doesn't make sense to me, because do you then, if you go back to 150, because that's what you had over your 250, then theoretically, like the next, you can redeem milestone 3.
I just think of it from a design perspective. How annoyed would you be as a user if you were just one day feeling, I'm going to save for 500, and then you're like, I kind of want the 100. I'm fine taking it. And then you don't have that option. You can't even spend your essence if you wanted to. It's like that's not a good experience for anybody. So I think always being able to redeem at any point is the smart decision.
Benson, you can redeem at any point the target right below. Yeah. So I guess the issue that I have is that they were very adamant that you can't redeem multiple levels. But theoretically, if you're way over one milestone, but you're still under the next one, your remaining essence could be enough for another milestone.
And I think they're okay with that. I think they should be okay with you being able to get basically 2 cards. I think they just wanted to avoid someone being at 550 and hitting milestone 3 5 times.
Right.
and just basically getting a bunch of tier 3 and above cards and not having to purchase any in-season cards. That's what they want to avoid. They want to make sure, oh, you're getting an in-season card. Why don't you go out onto the market and now buy a few more in-season cards, and you can now play in-season and compete for cash. And maybe that you can get 2 of the cards and you just need to buy 2 more. Like, I think that balance is really good.
Andrew said you lose the remaining essence. I'm like 85% sure I read this, that seems like a poor experience to me, which is the only reason why I think they wouldn't do that. But admittedly, I don't spend any time in the Sorare general Discord, so whatever they say there, I generally miss.
Yeah, I hope that's not the case. I think they need to balance user expectations with something like that. Like, if that's the case, I would have hoped that would have been more clear in the blog post, because I think I missed that, and but that's just my opinion. Maybe from an economy standpoint, I would understand it, but I just hope that's not the case.
Yeah, Ben doesn't think it's the case, so we'll see. What was I just about to say? Sorry, the whole redeeming at certain levels. Andrew said, I'm sure I read that when you were to redeem a level 3 milestone, you lose whatever essence you had. Don't shoot me if I'm incorrect, though. All right. I won't shoot you, but I have no idea if you're correct. It seems incorrect to me, but.
I think one thing, though, with all of this essence stuff is I think maybe this is the opportunity to set up expectations. Maybe Sorare need to be really clear that they may have to tweak it and scale it back, or maybe scale it forward, the amounts you can earn, or scale it back. But I think as a user base, we should expect, once we see essence, for it to be the best it can be day one. I would expect them to dial it backwards more than forwards, especially if new users join the platform. So I think that's the mindset I'm going to be in, because if essence is tied to boxes and boxes are tied to percentages of people playing competitions, you can get to a really tricky point, because they're entering this variable card model, which is really fascinating, because this whole new gameplay was supposed to be fixed amounts that Sorare, fixed amount of cash we're giving out, fixed amount of cards, and they're kind of changing it. So I think we need to understand that they might need to dial this essence back. But of course, we don't know what boxes look like. They might not give essence in Div 5 and Div 4, and who knows. But if you want 1 million users, they're going to have to change how essence is distributed.
That was a point that you brought up pretty quickly after they announced it, was basically, as long as Sorare are relying on paying boxes to a percentage of participants, that just means that the more participants, they have to pay out more boxes, and more boxes is more essence and all of that stuff.
And it could even just be more like, I only play Challenger. If there might be people who only run, like, if I have a champion lineup, I'd probably only have one. But as more champion cards each season come into the classic modes, that'll push prices down. And so there could be more opportunities for me to just have a D3 level lineup in champion. And that's all of a sudden not user growth, but entry growth. And we could see entry growth just because of how classic comps are structured. And this is tied to classic comps. Like, they don't need, I think there's going to continue to be growth in entries, even if there's not growth in users.
Do you think because of that, the possibility of boxes in-season comps is just dead on arrival?
Well, I'm in mixed minds. I play limited in-season exclusively.
Yeah.
I still think a great way to balance it would be to have some sort of boxes in there, but I would not touch awarding cards in there. I think I would do, I don't know. Level ups everybody hates. I like earning them. I'd rather have more level ups than just not have them. and do some vouchers, like 25% off, 50% off, 30% off. Just give me a range of vouchers, and then I can pair that with the cash. I'm more likely to spend it. I haven't spent any of the cash I've been winning. But if I had like 30% off an auction, sure. Or even 20%, just give me like that nibble of a deal. I think that's where boxes would be. I wouldn't touch Essence in there. I wouldn't touch cards in there because it's a cash competition. Keep the rewards cash related.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. Do you find that you have thought you may play? I asked Sean this and I was curious where you thought that. Do you think you will play any differently because of Essence?
I mean,
I was just saying, like, you play in-season Challenger now. I assume your plan is to play Classic when they become Classic cards. Do you think that you'll kind of expand because of the boxes and Essence?
So yeah, my strategy in Limited and Rare is like completely different. Right now in Limited, my focus is buying in-season cards, paying the premium for them, building out collections, and that way I can have a stellar Classic run. Like I'll be 15% on everything next season, and I'll be very competitive in Classic. And then I can sort of churn some Essence, and I'll have to buy less for in-season next season with Limited.
Yeah.
On the Rare side of things, I've just decided that I don't want to pay the in-season price tags that I would need to pay, especially with how Challenger is when Europe season starts. Like it's not something I want to touch. So I've sort of made the decision that I'm really happy with my Classic cards and Rare, and I'll save up my Essence for a great card, and then I'll redeem for a great card, and I'll move it on. And that'll be a nice little winning that I have every now and then, something I can churn out. And I'm just happy to stay that way. It's this happy balance. Like I'll still buy a few Classic Rare cards. I bought one a few days ago for this upcoming game week for MLS.
Let's go.
Yeah, I got Yamane, so I think they've got a good matchup against SKC. So looking forward to that one. But it's like two different strategies. I think it's kind of it depends if you're playing in season or not, I think.
Right.
And I think that'll inform some of the decision-making on what milestones you take.
Charlie in chat said, Essence will be available in the next few days. Do we know when the Essence Redeemer or the Sorare factory will open? I mean, theoretically, some users will be able to craft a card next game week because they may get 20 Essence in their boxes. That's milestone 1.
I think it'll launch right the day they put Essence in boxes. So I think Friday at 10 a.m. It's maybe 12. Maybe they'll need a couple hours. They don't want to mess with deadline lock too much. They might wait a couple hours. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's ready to go on Friday.
So I'm glad you brought that up. The game week deadline is an hour earlier this week.
Thank you for telling me that. I would have messed up. How?
Actually, it's an hour earlier for the rest of the Euros and Copa. 3 p.m. Friday for Central Europe, 2 p.m. in the UK, 9 a.m. on the East Coast of the US.
I wish maybe I missed something. I'm on the Sorare site way too much, but did I see? I don't know if I saw a notification for that. So that's good to know. I would have missed putting in a whole bunch of lineups, and I would have been really sad because I wait until the last hour to do all of my lineups.
Yeah, it was in this international summer schedule blog post.
That was so
temporary
long.
game week schedule. But yeah, 3 p.m.
See, I see CET, and I just don't know what that means. I just
I don't know if it actually stands for Central Europe time, but that's what I pretend it does because it handles all of Central Europe. But yeah, 3 p.m. Central Europe is 9 a.m. Eastern.
I wish they just put it 1 hour earlier. I'm not an expert with time zones. Like I don't really care what time zone Europe's in, if I'm being fair.
The reason for this, and what's actually quite interesting, is that time is kickoff for Germany, Scotland. So we'll actually know those lineups before the game week locks. Sounds like we already know the Germany lineup anyway, but it's kind of an interesting thing with this whole tournament, because there are I think it's possibly every Friday.
Do you think that's a good or a bad thing? I wish at this point they just did it 2 hours earlier.
Yeah. So Harry Trades and I were talking about this today, and he was like, we need to mention this on the game week preview because people are not going to realize it. So the game week preview for everybody who's watching this live or before Thursday is going to be 9 a.m. Eastern tomorrow, so that it's 24 hours before the deadline. So let me see. I have Germany, Scotland is 3. Oh, sorry. The kickoff is not the same. I messed that up the other day. Germany, Scotland kicks off at 3 o'clock Eastern, not 3 o'clock Central, but the game week deadline is 9 a.m. Eastern.
Okay. So we won't know those lineups. Will that be the case for like future game weeks? Is that, I guess that'll be the same.
This is what it is. Toby said the Germany game is 6 hours after lock. Yeah.
I never know. I mean, I know that Sorare can't control when it's like global leagues and everything. There's always going to be something at game week lock. But if there was something where it was like right before game week lock and you knew for 3 of the teams instead of all of the teams, I wouldn't really like that. At least for when you're changing the deadlines for something like this, I'd feel a little frustrated.
Right. Toby is right about this though. Croatia, Albania kicks off game week 2 on Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern, not Tuesday.
Yeah, see, I don't like that.
Yeah, there it is.
I don't like that. Okay, interesting.
If you don't like that, good luck on your game week 3 Sunday deadline, 9 a.m.
Yeah, I noticed when I was looking at, I was like, should I buy cards for MLS comps coming up? I was looking on Sorare data, and I was like, why are there a bunch of double game weeks coming up? And I was like, well, now I don't need to buy any cards. Like, it's like I'm just set for MLS. It's just going to be, that'll be really interesting for Challenger in season, which is what I care more about. So
the interesting thing with this schedule is only the first game week 1, which is game week 485 to everybody else, and game week 8. I'm sorry, no. 1, 7, and 8 are the only ones that have the same day as we have now.
Yeah.
In terms of lock. Otherwise, it's Wednesday, Sunday, Thursday, Saturday, Thursday. And also game week 4 is 3 days. The whole game week is 3 days.
I'm going to mess this up. I already know I'm going to miss the deadline. This is disappointing. Just for me, like, I know I'm going to miss it. I can't wait. I wonder which one it'll be.
I'll make sure you don't.
It'll be a Sunday one. I have a feeling it'll be a Sunday one, but
Saturday and Sunday it's tough.
Saturday's rough.
Yeah.
Hey, but at least I'll have MLS news that time. That drives me crazy right now with how those injury reports come out.
So game week 3 and game week 5, we should have the injury report before. The problem is everybody gets hurt after it anyway.
Yeah, but right now I feel for Deke. It feels like a shot in the dark with MLS right now. They already lie on them enough, so gosh.
Yeah, it's a crazy one. Anyway, I'm glad we talked through that because I think most people didn't realize that it's a different time.
Yeah, they need to like tweet that out maybe once or twice.
Actually what got me is I didn't believe it. Not that I didn't believe it, but when I checked on Sorare, because it usually shows the time, when I checked earlier, it just said starts in 2 days, and I'm like, that doesn't help. What? When? When does it start? But anyway, apparently it's 2 days, 18 hours, which actually, does that make sense?
Maybe. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I see you're in Div 8 and Rivals. Are you moving up or moving down?
I moved down from 6 to 8 because I didn't play. And then I played one match, won, and stayed in Division 8.
See, I was surprised. I didn't play any Rivals last week. And I thought I would stay in the same division because I never entered a division arena. Nope.
Get the hell out of here.
I was wrong.
Yeah. Rivals is for people who like to play Rivals. That's all. But yeah, I have to play now. Once the Euros start, I'll play. I don't even remember what match I did. I only did it because Sean got me to do it on Monday. What was Netherlands, maybe?
Oh, yeah. You were putting in that lineup that everybody seems to be running the same lineup. So
that's going to happen. So do you think that we will... It doesn't seem like something that Sorare necessarily would tell us, but I'm just super interested to see, like, this is back to the verb problem. I was going to call it redemption rates, but like how many people are like using their essence, crafting cards from their essence. I think I got that right. Yeah. Each game week.
Like how many do we think will be?
Yeah. Like I assume we'll see, I think the informed and patient part of the user base. And now that I've used the word patient, I think that probably applies to like 6 people. But I think the general goal will be, like you described, February and August. And so theoretically, we shouldn't see much card crafting over the summer because it's just
less people. So
yeah.
less people to get
and redeeming to get a new season MLS card in July seems unnecessary.
Don't do that. Nobody do that.
Right.
Nobody
Don't do that.
Also, right when the cards launch, don't redeem it. It's not going to be in the pools yet. Wait a couple of weeks. I can't wait for that to happen. That's going to be a big mistake by people. I think cards are going to launch. They're going to be like, my time to redeem a card. But, they wait a little bit to see where the auction prices come in and then stick them in the pool. So.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, the issue, do you play Contender at all?
I was about to buy an Armani card, thanks to Gator Guy's advice, 1 week before the new gameplay update. And then I couldn't find one at a price I liked. And then the new gameplay came out and I was like, thank God I did not touch that.
Okay, fair enough. I needed somebody to boost that price, but I guess it'll be someone else. And obviously you feel you have no incentive to play Contender now.
Yeah, I think though, what are the leagues that are in Europe over the summer? Because I think of Contender more as a summer league now, but maybe I'm just totally... Is it just the SPFL? Is there any...
Norway plays in the summer.
Is that a full league license though?
No.
So like
they have one.
I feel like it's going to be the same way I feel right now that I'm just playing MLS special weeklies every week in the summer. I think that's going to be how Contender is going to be. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how those SPFL boys approach that. There are other leagues, of course, there's more, but from an in-season perspective, there's not going to be that many in-season cards outside of the SPFL.
No, they have full Austria.
That's right.
And it's all the second
and
division.
Croatia. You're right. There's a few more leagues. What am I talking about?
Well, yeah, they have like the La Segunda division.
Oh my goodness.
2 Bundesliga. Like it's gigantic.
Never mind. What am I talking about? What do I know? I thought it was...
Well, you are right that there are more summer leagues in Contender. It's just we generally don't have lots of leagues. Like right. Peru and League Mexico, and like it's those leagues. Mexico isn't even really a summer league. That's the funny thing. Like they almost follow the European schedule more than they just start early. Agent Cooper said Austria, Russia doesn't count because they don't do anything. Scotland, Norway, which only has one team. Switzerland has no teams anymore, unless who did they have? Who was the one Swiss team they had, and then they got relegated?
Man, I own a Swiss card, and I don't think I'll ever be able to get rid of it. It's a terrible purchase.
That reminds me, I have one too, and they were playing in a relegate. Did they get does anyone know if Grasshoppers got relegated? Oh, I think they stayed up. Thank God. Scion, there you go. Yeah. So yeah, Contender's huge.
Contenders.
What's that?
What was the initial question with Contenders? Do
you have any incentive to play?
No, absolutely. Yeah. I'm not even going to touch it. I have no desire to touch it. Because I remember there was a point where I wanted to try to get into like the Brazilian side. Brazil's already overwhelming for me. I just ask MPen every time, hey, do I buy this guy? Because he's more of a Brazil guy than me.
Yeah.
I'm just really thankful they don't have in-season cards. And then I try to get into Argent, but I just struggle to get the news. And I feel like I know the MLS pretty well, that I have a nice little understanding of what to expect. And I just really struggled with Argentina and Brazil, especially.
Brazil's challenger, though.
Yeah, Brazil is challenger, but it's not in-season challenger, basically. Like, right. You could have one card, but
that's a weird one.
Yeah, I've thought about buying like some Dela Cruz card just to have but there's so many good MLS mids. Like, I'd rather have Brazilian defenders, has always been my thought, or goalkeepers. But then they're so extortionately priced. Right.
It's because there are not that many of them. Meaning, like, there are not enough cards.
There's not enough of them. And and the hardest part about the MLS is predicting the clean sheet. I think I spend like 5 hours every day just looking at odds, and I just am like, I should just throw a dart.
I think somebody, and this was back in the Champion America days, was saying that the best combo, which actually disappeared, but was Liga MX, goalkeeper, defender, and then MLS for the rest.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm happy that all got separated out. I struggled with the news. I think if anything, I would branch into Champion, because I like watching the Premier League. I like watching La Liga and Bundesliga. I just don't know if I have the desire to learn the leagues the way I think they need to be learned to be able to compete in them well. And if I'm going to have to buy a whole bunch of cards, learn the league really well, and then have this big gallery and not have a button, I'm going to lose my mind. Like, I already feel somewhat overwhelmed having to set like 10 lineups. And I'm like, this is too many at this point. Like, I don't want to, especially with how, like, on Sorare, when I go to do my limited in-season lineups and I'm getting rare cards in them, and I'm like, I don't want to look at them. Like, and I don't want to have to toggle it every time. It drives me crazy having to toggle it. And I do my lineup builder and Sorare data as well. And it's just, but then like, it's just too much. Like, it's driving me crazy. Like, every day when they need a button, like, I'm sorry, they do. Like, I don't want to buy more cards outside of the MLS. I really like the MLS, and gonna hurt me if I have to.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, and maybe that's the point, that if you're a challenger only player, or even contender, I'll say, and you're like, I want to expand, that they want you to go to champion. And while it's more expensive to play there, obviously the rewards are worth more, so you have to do that math yourself. But I find it almost, I mean, it's basically impossible for me to like make a case for you to play contender.
I actually think it's a different reason I don't want to play contender, as I knock my computer. The reason I don't want to play contender is I don't have a news advantage. Like, I think the news advantage in England or La Liga, because they're such globalized leagues, is much smaller than Argentina and Mexico and Brazil, or like the Asian leagues, for example. Like, I just know I cannot compete there. but I think like I could maybe in the Prem. Like it's just covered everywhere. Like everybody knows everybody's statuses. The deadline is specifically tailored so we get press conferences. Like there's just not that same level. There's so many like bookmakers, that's what they're focused on. Like so much information there that's accessible, and it's not for the other leagues. And that's actually why I don't want to touch Contender. Now, if Contender was worth that prize pools were 10 times more, sure, I'd maybe think about looking at it, but that's just not the case.
So you like really have no desire to learn Japanese?
I think I remember there was like a phase where I was like trying to get like pre all of the K-League coverage issues, and I was just like, I can't even like Google people's names.
Yeah.
And I just like, at least that was my saving grace for the other leagues. It's like I can Google on Twitter or whatever, mixed in with those like parody accounts where it has their username in it. That drives me crazy because
the stupid things you end up figuring out when you play Sorare. Agent Cooper said, "I'm selling my whole limited gallery because there's no button."
Yeah, I mean,
Ben agrees with you. Yeah,
it's not like I've done well in limited. I can go out and get the champion cards or whatever to compete, and I don't even want to. Like right now, nothing's changed my mind yet.
Do you think it's just easier to build a single team collection and just run that though?
That's not how I think is the best way to play. I don't.
Okay, that's fair.
What I'm like with MLS, I think it's important to do it for a few of the teams. Like I think you have to do a collection for Inter Miami. I think you have to do it for them, and then I think you have some flexibility with other options. But I think you kind of need a baseline in single league comps to have a number of collections, and then mix and match players with good matchups.
I think that's right. Is this the real nose? I think it is. It said, I'd say it's a bad idea to get into a league whose language you don't speak. Argentina is easy for me because I speak Spanish, but doing research for my Brazilian cards is a real pain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Colonel Dickweed here said, I've blocked so many random Twitter accounts just because they share a name of a footballer.
I did not know that worked, so thank you.
Me neither.
That has just saved me hours of scrolling on Twitter. I'll like look up something on Twitter on my computer, and my fiance will be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then I'm just like scrolling for like minutes trying to find. It just drives me. It's the worst.
Oh, apparently this is like well known. Vice, Braden, they do the same thing.
Dang.
Good to know.
Someone needs to like put that on Twitter. You're going to get massive engagement for that.
I think one of the most disheartening things is searching for one of your players and just seeing a stream of people who think they're just awful. Like, why does he play? Get rid of it. And you're just like, oh, so he's not going to start this weekend.
Yeah, the amount of times I've like thought about buying players, and that's what's like swayed me from not buying a player, which is like a disturbingly high amount. And that's probably just like, I look at DC United and I'm just like, gosh, half of these players stink, but like they're guaranteed starters every week.
In case anybody is curious, basically nobody who follows Sporting had any problem with Adon leaving. So I've learned. Is there anything on Essence we haven't touched on yet? I mean, there's tons, but like, I don't think there was anything that we were going to discuss.
You know, I look forward to seeing how they do it for the divisions. I'll be curious how they tune that. And, you know, I think, again, like I'll reiterate this to everybody that's in the chat and anybody who watches this. Our expectation should be that this is the most Essence we're going to be earning, and that'll get dialed back. And I think if we're coming from that place, I think it'll be healthy. And I think that should be our expectation, especially if you're someone that wants user growth. That should absolutely be your expectation.
Mm-hmm. I'll actually ask one more question. What do you think, and this is probably really tough to calculate or conceptualize, but what do you think the number of cards that will be crafted per player actually will be. Meaning, Sorare are going to reward 40 of 100 rares. How many of those 40 do you think that they will allow to be crafted?
I hope that it's actually like a blanket percentage for all players, just so we have some peace of mind as users that they're not like, we're never going to craft an Mbappe, or it'll be 1% for Mbappe and 20% for a different star card. I think I would be pretty disappointed if I found out that was the case.
Yep.
I think realistically, I think it just depends. Man, it depends. But I would be happy if it's 10%, like 30% awarded, 10%. That's kind of the number, the ratio that comes to mind first. But it all depends on what they're cutting. I think we'll get a great picture. If they cut card rewards by 50%, we'll know that about 50% are going to be in the pool for, or their expectations for rewarding.
Right.
That. But I think it's got to be a little bit dynamic, because if user growth happens and they don't dial it back, redeem rates are going to be high.
Sure.
I think there's that balance. It's not, I don't think it'll be a fixed 10%. But my expectation is they'll kind of pull back 25% of the cards given to set aside the 25%. So 25% of 40%. So 10% of those cards. And that might be their expectations, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm curious if we'll get to a point where we're like, 10 Mbappes have been crafted, so no more can be crafted. And I don't think we'll ever actually get that publicly.
I think that's also just hard.
Be able to track it.
We won't be able to, you don't think?
I think we will.
Yeah. I think that's I really like where Sorare is in terms of balance between like the blockchain stuff, the crypto stuff, and the accessibility with like US dollars and all of that, because I love that on the back, like we can see all of this stuff. And like you could, if you did the blockchain stuff, thankfully they make the API pretty user friendly, but it's really nice that like we have all of this information, we can find out and we can be like, we think we should go in this direction or whatever. And they can kind of get a sense from user feedback as well. I mean, I don't think user feedback should really always drive their decisions, but it is helpful when there's good ideas.
Yeah, for sure. All right. I think we hit everything I was hoping to touch on. I guess what you were saying before, is your expectation you will craft a card, like basically 2 cards a year?
Yeah, so in rare, I think I'm going to craft 2 cards a year. Limited, if I don't expand my gallery, it's just going to be, it'll probably be like every month or so, because I'm just going to do it it'll actually be probably every couple months, because I'll save up till about 200 and then double shoot, depending if I know new seasoned cards are coming out at some point. I think it'll be a little bit like, I don't know, for those who play FIFA or maybe other games, it'll be like a little bit of a pack save if I can save. If I know something's coming up, I might try to tailor or maybe not open a box for a second for a week or two and take my double shot at that tier 3 milestone and then open up the boxes and start working again. But
we actually didn't talk about that, and I think somebody brought it up in the chat, but the idea of like box saving, that like if you get to a threshold and you're just like, I don't want to redeem now, a milestone, trying to get rid of that threshold word. To like basically save boxes for however long.
And I think people will do it if there's like a deadline coming up, like if new cards are coming in soon, and it's like it's a couple of weeks away. I don't think people are going to be nobody's going to be saving. I don't think you should be saving boxes from April until August just to try to maximize that's just a poor reward experience. I don't even know if you could open your other card rewards when you have boxes. Like, I don't know how that display all works. Like, it probably would be smart that you wouldn't be able to open any threshold wings or anything like that until you open all of your previous game week awards.
No, I think I think you claim boxes. I mean, you definitely claim boxes in a different window than opening the boxes.
Yeah.
So I think I've actually never tried to save boxes. So maybe if anybody has tried it, but I was actually thinking, if you're at 550 or if you're at 500 in April and you play champion, why not just wait?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like, I think they probably need to figure that out. It's probably not urgent right now because no one's gonna be at 500 essence, but that
Right.
needs to get figured out soon because that could be an issue. Especially because we were looking. You probably don't have the box rates up, but the card payouts are lower in the boxes now.
Yeah.
And I just think people, if they're like, okay, 1% chance, I know 5% to 1% chance, it's not that big of a deal, but 1%, it just feels like you're never going to hit 1%. Yeah, I think it's about 1% chance you get a card. I would save those boxes then.
Yeah. Yeah. I think box saving is going to be a thing.
So if Sorare can work out a way where you can open the box on the page you open your rewards, like your card rewards, I would love that in terms of just saving. I hate having to flip the darn card to see that I won a box like that. Come on. Like, I know I want to, like, that's so silly. That's not special. Just let me.
I think it's weird that you have to refresh the page afterwards.
Yeah, there must be some technical, but I think I think they should try to figure that out because I think this. Hey, look at us. We're all about trying to exploit the game for monetary benefit, right? So
and to speed things up a little bit. I do think that based on what's available in the boxes. So these are the percentages for the Euros, like the first game week. There's really nothing of a good chance that you're like missing out on by not opening the box.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like it's a 10% chance at a jersey or even a 10% chance at a 50% off market credit up to $10. Like, there's really nothing here that you couldn't just wait 3 months for.
I think what's funny is the thing I want most out of these boxes is that 50% credit for $100. Like, that is absolutely what I want the most. I wonder if we'll start seeing inflated primary market prices once this starts getting into the hands of users. I know it's on the MLB side and the NBA side. I touched them for like 2 game weeks and then I got away from them. But I haven't paid close enough attention to that market. I wonder if we'll see.
Does a lower than 3% chance of a market credit make you think that you should just wait on your boxes?
Yeah, because I can still get the market credit later.
Right.
I would want the market credit when the new season cards come out and I'm trying to redeem anything anyways. Like
I think we're stumbling into a problem that there's actually an incentive. Well, there isn't until you've hit your milestone, but effectively, once you reach your milestone, if you reach the top milestone in a time where you don't want to redeem, there's no carrot to get you to move forward to open your boxes.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if they could even put just a simple cap on boxes that you could have stored. But then that doesn't work because some people like Sean win like 80 boxes. So if you're going to put a cap at 80, like at that point, it doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah. Like I think he wins like 15 to 30 boxes a week.
I just think yeah, this is going to be a problem. I feel like every time I'm on this show, I just think of a new problem.
Thank you to everybody for coming. If you could please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Shout out to Quinny. Peter, thank you very much for coming on. It was one of those things, Toby, who's here in chat. So thank you, Toby, for this topic because he brought it up. And Peter, you were the first person to come to mind when I was like, I need somebody smart to explain all this to us. So thank you for coming on. Thank you to everybody for joining. Good luck with all your boxes and your, lineup building this week. Don't forget the Sorare data lineup projection game We're giving out a ton of cards and Sorare Data memberships, and go play. It's easy. Some of the lineups are already out there with free wins. But seriously, go participate in that. It's a good time. If you don't have the cards to play the Euro competition, but you still want to kind of get in on the game, that's another game to play. So yeah, thank you, and good luck out there.